You realise, of course, one of us is lying about our basic programming. And I think we both know who that is. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the first episode of Series 8 of Doctor Who, Deep Breath, written by Stephen Moffat and is directed by Ben Westley. This story is the first to feature the 12th Doctor, played by Peter Capaldi. Now, yeah, it was a big deal. In fact, this story was actually shown in selected theatres. Sadly, I didn't get the time to buy the tickets. They all sold out by the time I checked them. So I didn't actually get to see this in the cinema, which is a bloody shame if you ask me. But yeah, Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor, finally here. We finally got there. But the thing is, the story does it does something similar to previous Doctor Who stories, like Cast Revolver and the Twin Dilemma, in which the Doctor is a bit more erratic. He's a bit more like time-loaded, confused. That's even a word. And so actually our main plot line is to revolve around our companion and our crew. And I think what this story does really great right off the bat is that not only does it bring back Clara, the companion from the last series, but it also features in this story the Patronotrogram, Jenny, Vastra and Strax, which means that this story has a much easier gateway for people who enjoyed the Matt Smith era to get into the 12th Doctor era, as they were already introduced as character. They just need to be reintroduced to the Doctor with this persona. In advertisements for this series, it was the whole idea of it was that the Doctor was this incarnation was a much more darker incarnation. A Doctor who doesn't even know if he's a good man or not. However, you might be disappointed to note that none of that actually plays out in the first episode. Sure, you get some dark moments, you get dark scenes, but you also have the 12th Doctor being incredibly funny. This is an incredibly funny and humorous adventure. And many people seem to agree this story was hugely praised when it came out. Though there have been things that have been said about it, mainly that it's a poor introduction to the 12th Doctor, as he has very little screen time. As we will see, that is a kind of case in point, and it's not really a great introduction. If you want to get into the 12th Doctor, as the 12th Doctor, as stated, is hardly in it. But yeah, this is the DVD cover. Really nice, with the spine of the Stephen Moffat era. You got that in the back, and like always, I've got a Region 2 DVD cover. So you know what this means. If you see my vlogs long enough, you know what this means. 1, 2, 3. There you go. So this is what it looks like on my shelf. This is by Christopher Doctor Who DVD covers, and it looks absolutely stunning right there. You got Peter Capaldi in the middle, you got a dinosaur, because the story actually features a dinosaur right early on in the adventure, bringing back the much more quirky aspects of the 11th Doctor era, kind of like an easing in the way of the more darker incarnation yet to come for certain episodes. And that's the spine, if anyone's interested. And here is the back. So there you go. So let's get into the story at hand. And I feel like the introduction to this is really cool. But before we actually get into the main narrative, it is important to note that for the movie, for when it was played in the cinema, there was a short clip that played beforehand featuring Strax basically reintroducing the audience to each Doctor that's previously appeared, with some really humorous remark, like how the third Doctor's the second Doctor regenerated into a granny, the Ninth Doctor liked girls so much he decided to regenerate into one. And he makes a joke about the 11th Doctor's chin. But we are seeing... but then that leads directly into the actual main episode as we see Vastra, Jenny and Strax investigate a giant T-Rex in the River Thames in London. And it spits out the TARDIS, and we get our first proper scene of Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, and he really nails down that eccentricness. It feels honestly like the most classic Who the revived era has ever been. The Doctor can be quirky, but he can also use that quirky as a sort of demeanour against people he's talking against. Specifically with the more bombastic Doctors like the 4th and the 6th. And I had flashbacks to that, especially when you have scenes where he can't tell which one's Vastra, which one's Jenny, which one's green. I can't prejudge. And he kind of seems to also forget who Clara is, which is something to do with like regeneration, something that we've seen before. After the Doctor regenerates, they're a much more quirky character who seems to struggle with names and places, and even in the case of the 8th Doctor, forget who they are entirely. And that actually becomes a huge stroll on Clara, who's just seen her best friend turn into this grumpy but really eccentric old man. And that's where kind of the heart of the story does. As the Doctor gets knocked out, we get this funny scene where the Doctor they try to get the Doctor into bed, but he just doesn't understand the concept of a bedroom. There's a great part when Niamh McIntosh, who plays Vastra, she uses a real-life Scottish accent to calm the Doctor down. The Doctor says, like, you've all turned English, you're all developed of fault. So like, yeah, for the 12th Doctor, it shows a lot of quirky, a lot of humorous stuff in the first half of the story. And what the story really does, which I think was actually really needed, maybe not for this particular story, but was needed for the franchise, is to give Clara a character. And here, though it doesn't make sense, because she is one of the only companions in the show history at this point that has seen every single incarnation of the Doctor. Yeah, think about it. Name of the Doctor, she's seen every incarnation. She understands the Doctor has been many people, has been many faces, and she understands fully the concept of regeneration. So her going through this plot line doesn't kind of make sense. However, it does mean that Clara has a lot more interesting of a personality to do, as she is dealing with this concept of her best friend, this young man that she travels with through space and time, has now suddenly changed, almost as if the younger man is dead and this new man has replaced him. Sort of like how audience members feel in the newer era of Doctor Who when a regeneration happens. Let us not remind us that regenerating David Tennant to Matt Smith was hugely controversial at the time. And I think Stephen Moffat knew this, and so he put Clara into the aspect of the audience member. He basically put Clara through this storyline to help audience members, as we can see with her, grow into like this new Doctor, as we as the audience member will also grow to like this new Doctor. And it plays really well into the narrative. That also means that Clara gets a lot of screen time. She's essentially the main character in the story, as not only is she learning about this mystery that's been developing, but she also has to tackle some of the Doctor's quirks and tries to help him through his regeneration process, even though they actually spend a less screen time until like the midpoint. And so, yeah, now that's the main thing now. The story then kind of splits, like, in a sense. There's a great moment where you have this really quirky moment where the Doctor escapes his bedroom and he sees this dinosaur. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'll get you home. Only for the dinosaur to erupt into flames. and all of our characters are racing to the main, to the scene of the crime, shall we say. And it's all really quirky, it's all really bombastic. You have this dun 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 music playing. You got a scene where the doctor is like, "I'm gonna have to relieve you of your pet." No, I was talking to the horse. As the doctor kidnaps a horse, and the doctor then is confronted with the dinosaur's burning corpse. And this is when we first get the first moments of this more serious doctor that was promised to us, as he sees this burning corpse and he is just full with regret that he can't do anything. He's a lot less like the 12th Doctor. He's not like moving his motion. Every movement he takes is full of thought. It's full of content. He doesn't move his arms like the 11th Doctor, where it's all wibbly wobbly, tiny whiny. The 12th Doctor, each moment, each decision he makes is calculated. And the scene where he's like, "No, you don't see, it's all the pudding brains, planet of the pudding brains." So there's a big burning dinosaur in the middle of the Thames. The question is, have there been any similar murders? And he notices then this man that seems to have no reaction to the burning dinosaur. Seemingly he is the main criminal. As we get to introduce then, let's introduce you to the half-faced man, played by Peter Florando. And he does a really great job here. This villain is surprisingly really memorable. I really like his introduction scene where you see these people talking about the dinosaur. One of them thinks it's all fake, it's all mirrors or something. And you see the half-faced man, and you see his face from one part of the angle, and then he turns, revealing that he's got like a transparent robotic face. You can actually kind of like see into it, as if like his entire personality is a puppet. And it's just a really cool effect. In fact, you can tell that the production team and the director are really comfortable with this special effect, because there are a lot of scenes, a lot of shots where we get a close-up of this effect. And Fernando's acting gives this, he kind of has this emotionless emotion towards him, where he has these small little movements like in his head. It has a very robotic jolt, however it still feels with emotion, as he's curious, as he's content, as he's thinking something out. There's a lot of great scenes like that, and we basically learn this mystery throughout the story about him and why he's doing this, and it actually ties into a previous Stephen Moffat story, which isn't something that's new at this point. However, the story it is actually tying into, that was kind of a surprise. I was not expecting that. But yeah, so we have a few scenes to... Basically, the story is actually really great, because I think I'm already like halfway through the narrative, because the story is not really about the plot. It's not about the narrative, shall we say. At this point, we have a lull in the narrative where we just see some like scenes play out of our characters enjoying each other's company, with Clara having some really funny interactions with Strax, which does kind of take away the seriousness of the situation. But come on, Dan Starkey really nails the humour. And I like Catherine Stewart and Neve McIntosh as Jenny and Vastra respectfully as well. Although their characters here, I feel, are the weakest that they've ever been, because they don't really get much to do apart from have some funny moments, some quirky lines in the narrative. With Strax, that's fine enough because he is the comic relief character. But for Vastra and Jenny, there are some scenes where they have some really great humorous moments. Like there's a bit where Jenny is posing and she thinks that Vastra is painting her, but in actuality Vastra is actually like planning out a map of all the mysterious murders that have been around London lately. Stuff like that is really humorous, but then like, what does Jenny do in that point? You know, Jenny is also now a comic relief character. And there's also some really, like, the story is so good at some points. There's some really great moments, really great dialogue, especially when we come to the later half of the story, where we'll talk about the later half when we get to the ending. But we get some really great scenes as well. With the 12th Doctor, there's a great moment where he encounters a homeless man and he doesn't know about his face, and he sees a newspaper, and he's just really frantic towards this man. Now, fun fact, this man is actually played by Elizabeth Sladen's husband, so it's a nice tribute to the Sarah Jane Adventures and Sarah Jane and Elizabeth Sladen, a massive icon for the series. So this was a really great little cameo scene from her husband, and a really great tribute to Sladen, who actually didn't really get much of a mention in the series whatsoever when she did pass away. I best late is better than never, I suppose. And also, I really love the two of them interact. So like the idea of the Doctor trying to steal a homeless man's coat. The line that gets me is the Doctor's like, "I'm cold." The homeless man is like, "I'm cold." It's like, well, I'm cold too. You know, there's no point. Give me your coat. There's no point of both of us being cold. And the Doctor's talking about his eyebrows, his attack eyebrows. You see, there's a lot of quirky moments here. This story does a very poor job at introducing this story to a darker Doctor. This Doctor, despite being very different from Matt Smith, does have a lot of those elements of him. Very much the classic rendition of the Doctor that you're used to. It's just now this Doctor is played by Peter Capaldi, who... Yeah, let's talk about Peter Capaldi for a moment, because it's something I need to get off my chest. When they introduced, they basically had this massive television program introducing the actor who will play the 12th Doctor, the Next Doctor event. At the end, they will like announce who the next Doctor is, and you know, people are now like, who's your favourite Doctor? Who's the person you think will play the great Doctor? Now, there's one person I had in my mind. I didn't know his name at the time, but I said the guy from Into the Loop. The guy was Peter Capaldi. Peter Capaldi was a Doctor, an actor who he was my top pick to play the Doctor. So could you imagine my surprise? The guy who's been watching Doctor Who since as long as he remembered, even before 2005. And the guy he said should play the Doctor is his top pick, gets to play the Doctor. That was absolutely... that was brilliant. That was brilliant. Of course, Peter Capaldi had previously been seen in Day of the Doctor and at the end of Time of the Doctor, respectively, as he regenerated. So that's really cool. But like I said, there's not really much to him here. The story is mainly focused on Clara, and especially when Clara's trying to figure out what the Doctor's going in. She finds this newspaper where the newspaper says something along the lines of "From the Impossible Girl," and she figures out, right, that must be from the Doctor because, you know, she's the Impossible Girl. So they meet up in this restaurant. Actually, I can't remember if that's before or after the veil scene. I'll talk about the veil scene later, because let's get into some positive things first. We get this really great set piece where Clara and the Doctor meet up in this restaurant, and it's kind of the first time they've had a proper interaction in this story. But here, we kind of see Clara's point of view, that, you know, that she kind of doesn't trust the Doctor anymore. That the Doctor has become this sort of someone she has to look after rather than a friend of sorts. And so, though she uses her nanny skills, she's like, no, I will smile first and I will give you permission to smile later. You do not smile, you do not laugh before me. You know, we take this, this is a very serious matter because I'm very cross with you. And there's a great moment where Clara is like, right, who would set clues, who would set like a name in a newspaper, And the doctor's just like, well, I think that whoever did that is a needless control freak, hell-bent on vanity issues and stuff like that. And then it's kind of revealed in the scene after they realise something. It's that none of them actually sent it. Someone actually sent them here to this restaurant. And this restaurant is full of people who do not breathe and seemingly do not eat. And we get some really great moments, a really classic Stephen Moffat, where the doctor takes Clara's hair, he like examines it, and he's looking around, and he asks Clara, like, can you hold your breath, which then ties into later on in the scene. And so, like, the build-up of that scene is really incredibly awesome, and you get then, I like the waiter as well. I don't know why the waiter is really memorable as well. Spleen, liver, yes, we do have a children's menu. That cracks me up every time when he says that. And the doctor and Clara, they get taken to essentially the larder, where they get introduced to the half-faced man, and they plan on escaping, but the doctor's like, this seems really familiar. And because of the doctor's quirkiness, it actually puts like, gives enough time for these doors to close, trapping Clara in the room with the half-faced man as he's waking up. And Clara kind of works out that these machines, they don't breathe, so Clara actually holds her breath. And we get this really intense scene when she has to hold her breath, and we see the half-faced man coming up towards her, like kind of listening to her breathing, realises she's not breathing, and kind of walks off. Clara then goes through the corridor, which the doctor previously went through. She turned around, she turns her to the other side of the corridor, only to reveal that there are more of these robot android people coming in, and she just loses all hope. Now, I know I'm doing it like really quick, but that scene is incredibly powerful. Now, before we get into the next scene, let's track back a bit, because there's a scene I want to talk about, because this story has a lot of great moments, as I previously stated. A lot of great character beats and humorous moments and quirky moments for Peter Capaldi to shine. It doesn't mean this story is perfect. And one scene that stands out like a sore thumb is the veil scene. Essentially, Clara acts like, you know, this is not the doctor, or at least, you know, like, she's concerned for the doctor's like, why is his face like that? Why is his face all wrinkly? You know, he changed, it's new, but it's wrinkled and stuff. And Vastra is like, right, we need our veil. Jenny's like, are we expecting strangers? It seems like we've already got one in the house. And we basically get this scene where Vastra basically pushes Clara to have this sort of ideology that she only really stayed with the doctor because she fancied him. Or at least the doctor thought that she fancied him. And him regenerating into an old man is essentially relieving the veil off his face, showing the Clara the old man he is deep down inside. And Clara not accepting that is incredibly, you know, is incredibly hurtful to the doctor, and Clara and Vastra can kind of see that, and I do get the point of this scene, I do understand it. However, the way Vastra words it, it sounds more spiteful, less than they're comforting for a friend, less that they see this woman who is struggling to grasp the concept of regeneration and is taking it out on her, rather than like helping her through the mind process. And we also get Vastra wearing this veil, and then in the next scene she doesn't, and Clara, she has this bombastful outburst which really doesn't change her point of view at this point. And when Clara is just like, then Clara kind of realises that where's the veil gone, and Vastra's just like, oh, it's gone when you stop seeing it. What? That's such a stupid scene. It's ridiculous. And what's really worse is that this is almost a rip-off of the one-word scene in The Snowmen, the worst scene in that story. Why? These scenes are so stupid. I don't understand. Like, sure, I get where it's supposed to make Vastra all this seem much more intelligent. She's much more calculated in a sense. But the way it's played out here and the way it's played out as well in The Snowmen just is really painful to watch. It makes Vastra seem incredibly stupid as well as incompetent and just downright mean. And makes Clara just kind of seems really stupid as she doesn't notice the veil. And it's not like we see in a scene where like they're talking and then it cuts to the doctor using some chalk. When it cuts back, Vastra then doesn't have the veil. So she took it off and Clara was just too dumb to notice it. That's a really stupid and painful scene to watch. Yeah, and there's also as well the controversial kiss. Now, I do think this is actually a great basis for a controversy. No, I didn't word that right. I do think there's reason for this to be controversy, but not for the reasons that a lot of people go for. Essentially, there's a scene where all the androids are fighting up against Vastra and Jenny and Strax and Clara, and they've basically got to hold their breaths to trick the robots into thinking that they're one of them or if they're dead or something. And Vastra is struggling, and not Vastra, Jenny, sorry, struggling, and so Vastra kisses her breath of life, and though it's, you know, it's supposed to be like to try and keep her conscious, keep her breathe without the robots knowing, the way it's shot, the way it's shown to the audience, it's clearly some sort of romantic kiss, a romantic gesture. Now, a lot of people actually kicked off with the BBC at this point for showing a same-sex kiss on a family-friendly programme. And for those who did that, you're not a very nice person. Now, but I actually do have issue with the so-called kiss. And that is, the story has to kind of force Vastra and Jenny, a married couple, to kiss. Like, you couldn't just have them have a normal kiss. No, it's got to be this bombastic, oh, we're going to keep each other alive and stuff. And you've got these really strange angles where you've got these close-up of their eyes, and you got the slow motion on the kiss, which would have been really awesome if this was like a romantic scene, but no, it's forcefully filled into the plot. Although I do really like how Strax, when he struggles to hold his breath, he actually plans on like shooting himself. He would rather sacrifice himself than give away the breath to his friends. That is so noble. Strax is the best Sontaran in the series on that particular moment. Only for Vastra, to shout, no, don't! And they start breathing again, and the robots start attacking everybody again. So yeah, that kiss, it is kind of it's forced, but not in the way that, oh no, we've got to have a same-sex kiss. It's forced in the sense, it's like, right, this couple need a reason to kiss. They couldn't just kiss in the story. I don't think I would have minded if it wasn't for the fact that this was the first kiss that we see this known married couple have. It seems really strange. You know, does that make any sense? I'm not quite sure, I'm not explaining it properly. But anyway, back to the narrative at hand, where Clara gets captured by the Two-Faced Man and his army, and we get a great scene that basically shows Jenna Louise Coleman at her absolute strengths. And I remember getting really excited. I was like, oh my god, they're making Clara interesting. She basically, first of all, has this flashback of her first day as teacher, and it went horribly. These kids just like, you know, they weren't taking her seriously. She's like, right, I'll ground you, I'll send you all to detention, and they're like, yeah, go on and do it. See if we care. And she kind of remembers that moment. She remembers that pain and suffering she has. And she kind of implements that into the situation at hand, where Clara is like, right, you the Two-Faced Man is like, you will tell us where the other one is, or we will kill you. And Clara's just like, your threats are not going to work, because I know you're not going to kill me, because if you kill me, you will never find out where my accomplice is, where the doctor is, and I'm not going to tell you. And you've already like started at the threat of death, so all you could do is work your way down. And to which the half-faced man replies with something like, "We can hurt you. We can find other ways of distracting the information from you. So tell us, or we will now pain you." It's like Clara's like, you've gone from killing me, from hurting me. See, you're working down. There's no way you can negotiate this on a threat, on a term. You have to negotiate. And Clara is asking the question. She basically puts herself in a situation where she gets to ask questions like why did you burn the dinosaur? To which the half-faced man is like, he has certain components in his brain that were vital for our computer systems. And Clara's just like, hold on, that means you've seen dinosaurs before. How long have you been? And we get a scene in which she's like, right, I know the doctor. He is, at this moment, he's erratic. At the moment, he doesn't know himself, but he's always got my back, and he's right behind me. Are you? And she puts her hand out, and then one of the robots grabs her hand, but really frantic as it takes off its face to reveal the 12th Doctor. And we get a scene that's just like, finally, we meet at last, and we can have this encounter, this big encounter. And we get this chase scene with the rescue scene, which is the scene I was on about earlier with the Vastra and Jerichis and Strax nearly shooting himself. And we get then this really, what is the best scene in the story, which represents that Doctor that was advertised to us, where the 12th Doctor and the half-faced man are talking to each other. That scene, when they get in that restaurant, just the two of them, every piece of dialogue, every piece of acting, every shot in that is so well choreographed, so well. This is classic Stephen Moffat here. This is the Stephen Moffat that I remembered, that I wanted for years. The more calculative Doctor here. There's a great scene where the Doctor basically explains the ship of Theseus philosophy, but he does it with a broomstick, which I think is actually a reference to Only Fools and Horses, where it's like, if you replace the stick and you replace the brush, is it still the same? Is it still the same brush? And the Doctor basically explains that this creature has changed so many parts of itself, altered itself so much that it's unrecognizable. You probably don't even remember when you got that face. And he has this, puts this reflective plate or whatever it was to it. But as he does that, he can see himself in the reflection as well, as if he's talking to it about himself. And you see kind of like the half-faced man looking at himself. You also see Peter Capaldi in the reflection on the behind, looking at himself as well, not realising where he's gotten that face from. And that was amazing to watch. And the Doctor basically realises that these are people from the SS Marie Antoinette, which is the sister ship of the SS Madame de Pompadour. For those of you who don't know, that is actually a reference to the 10th Doctor story written by Stephen Moffat, The Girl in the Fireplace, where we see robots trying to take human remains and put them into their ship, into their computer system, and they haunt the French royal aristocrat Madame de Pompadour. So that story ties into this and seems to fill up a new story arc of these robots that tried to become human and tried to reach the so-called promised lands. And that ending shot where the Doctor and the Two-Faced Man, they basically have this debate where it's like, I can't kill and I can't commit suicide. And the Doctor's like, one of us is basically lying about our basic programming, and we both know who. and then it cuts to the next scene with Clara and Jackson singing, and everybody, all the robots just stop. When it cuts back to a confrontation with the Doctor, you see the Two-Faced Man basically hanging at the top of Buckingham Palace, what am I about? Big Ben, as we get this beautiful shot of Peter Capaldi looking at the camera, as it's up to the audience whether the Doctor pushed the Two-Faced Man or whether the Two-Faced Man jumped. And it's left up to the audience interpretation. That is some really great, deep, the dark aspects of the Doctor, which the series seems to be building up to. And before the story ends, we have a few more details. The Doctor gets his new costume, which is a bit of a shame because I did actually like the costume he wears at the end of the story. It felt very doctory and also really suits Peter Capaldi. His actual official costume is really cool as well. It has that magician feel to it. In fact, all of his costumes so far give him this magician look. It's just, I think, Peter Capaldi's appearance just looks like a magician. And they also kind of wrap around the new storylines that are going around. The Doctor mentions how, because something I forgot to mention, something I actually don't like again, it's something to do with the whole everything must tie together, all of these things that distract from the main plot line, is that we never actually found out who put that newspaper. It wasn't the Two-Faced Man, it wasn't the Doctor, it wasn't Clara. And the Doctor basically summarises that a woman to Clara, it's like somebody gave Clara the Doctor's phone number, so there's somebody out there hell-bent on finding us and putting us, meeting us, getting us to stay together, meeting us. Why then, this is the thing about the storylines, about why it's so annoying, why then do they just not stay with Vastra, Jenny and Strax and stay there and try and find this person down, try and hunt this person down? Who wants to keep the Doctor and Clara going? Who sent that? It's a big mystery that the Doctor's just kind of going, I'll leave it for some other time. Which then again, stuff which I complained about with the story arc heavy stuff with the Matt Smith era, it's really out of character for the Doctor, leaving a mystery like that to be unsolved in such a way like that, where it's just like, we'll wait until the answers come to us, which means our protagonists become a lot less interesting in terms of their relationship to that plot line, to that narrative. Personally, anyway, I know a lot of people really like this kind of storytelling. We also then we get introduced to Missy, played by Michelle Gomez, which is one of the big storyline heavy stuff where she basically introduces herself to the half-faced man who seamlessly is revived, but she basically explains that she is in heaven and her boyfriend is the one, is the Doctor, and it's like, who did he push you or did you fall? I couldn't tell from where I was sitting. And she basically is like, this is the promised land, this is heaven. And she will then play a big part into the series later come, especially if you know who Missy is. But I wanted to get it out of the way because it's not that interesting personally. And the more interesting aspect is the true ending, for me anyway, where the Doctor takes Clara back to modern day Earth. And Clara isn't actually sure if she wants to stay with the Doctor or not. But she gets a phone call, and that phone call is actually the Doctor at Trenzalo, at the Village of Christmas. Yes, it's the 11th Doctor. Remember at the end of time where we saw the phone hanging from the TARDIS and exterior? Well, it's actually the 11th Doctor calling up Clara from the future to basically explain that you must be so confused, you must be so lost, you must be so, you have no idea where you are, so scared. But believe me, the man you're with, he's even more scared than you are. He doesn't know what he's doing. So please, Clara, I don't know who you're with, but I hope you're with the man I hope you are. I hope you're with my future self. And I hope that, he is me. And I hope that you will look after me in my time of need, time of great change and new ideas for me as a Doctor. But I think it's a two-handed, because in one hand, it has Matt Smith back, which is something which like having him return for a scene in the other Doctor kind of feels like, oh look, it's Matt Smith, the Doctor that the old audience members is, and yeah, it's kind of forced in a way. However, I think this scene actually does something great here, which is something like the End of Time really failed to do, and that is the helping of the passing of the torch. Sure, you could say the actual regeneration itself is the passing of the torch, but again, this just helps more again with the 11th Doctor with Matt Smith, basically saying it's like, right, he's the Doctor now. You're gonna have great fun with him. You're gonna have a great time with him. Just please stick with him. He will prove himself to you. Don't you worry. And that is Deep Breath. Overall, this is a really great story. It has been one of the best written stories by Stephen Moffat in a long time. It's not without its flaws, however. Some scenes feel like filler, mainly just for humorous moments between Clara, Vastra, Jenny and Strax. And like I said, there's kind of that lull moment with some really painful scenes, like I said, with the veil scene and the forced kiss, and the kiss that's forced, and also as well, I think the Missy at the end was really distracting and was clearly like, hey, this will be important later on in the series. Please keep remembering this because this will be important for the finale, kind of aspects. And the fact that the Doctor wouldn't go out to find out who gave Clara his phone number, or find out who put them together in that restaurant seems really strange and odd. However, the majority of the story is really well hidden. It really does a great job at giving Peter Capaldi and Jenna Louise Coleman something to do. Clara has a character. We got the 12th Doctor. Woohoo! Come on, Series 8. So, that out of the way, that's Deep Breath. So join me next time with the Doctor, when we get our true introduction to the 12th Doctor, because this is the first time he'll be throughout the story, where the Doctor takes Clara to one of the most dangerous places in the entire universe. Somewhere where even the Doctor has great fear. So join me next time for Into the Dalek. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!